Welcome back everybody to another video. So today we're going to be looking at my Nightblade tank, with particular respect to the Swarm Mother set that you see right now. It's actually a really useful set for tanking, and I want to talk a little bit about it in the grand scheme of things compared to DK tanking, which has often been the best pick. So prior to Tamriel's release, one of the DK's tank's main advantages was the ability to chain in adds so that we could easily burn them down efficiently. This is especially the case during boss fights where adds spawn, because often DPS utilises ground dots which they apply to the boss, and if you have to move the boss in order to get to the adds, it's going to result in DPS loss. Thus change is really useful. Now unfortunately, Sorcerer tanks, Templar tanks and Nightblade tanks were a bit out of luck with regards to this. They didn't have really any comparable ability. There were a few abilities that you could use to group adds up just through grinding aggro, but nothing to the same extent that chains would in terms of efficiency. Now luckily Swarm Mother set got released with Tamriel, and this is a really great set that I actually initially overlooked, but having tested it I really do enjoy it. As you're seeing here, we're fighting a boss that has adds, and normally they would fly around a bit and not be too grouped up, but with Swarm Mothers actually they get grouped up and quite easily killed. So perhaps the first consideration you're wanting to have when looking at this set is what am I giving up in that 2-piece bonus. Now traditionally Nightblade tanking has had a few options. You can either go for a healing supportive 2-piece, such as some of the new Tamriel sets I've talked about before, like LoterkESO or Chokeforn, but also then Blood Spawn, which is a traditionally really good set with something that Nightblade tanks ran. Now one of the reasons I think it's not such a big deal with particular respect to Blood Spawn is that Nightblade tanks already have very good ultimate regeneration with respect to tanking, due to a number of passives and also the ulti back when you use a pot. And even though you're giving up Blood Spawn, when compared to a DK tank that is running it with Heroic Slash as well, I think that your ulti gen would be comparable, at least when you were running Heroic Slash yourself as well. So in that respect I don't think it's that big a deal, and the Warhorn uptime will be somewhat similar, even though you're running this set. Unfortunately, as with Blood Spawn, with 1 piece is also the same bonus, which is a little bit disappointing considering the fact that stamina regen can often be wasted when you're blocking as a tank. The upside is, as a Nightblade tank you often are light weaving in order to get the resource proc off your siphoning attacks, so it's not all bad. So moving on to the benefits. Now what you're seeing right here is a particularly large pool on Blackheart Haven, and while not difficult it can be quite time consuming in that a lot of ranged adds refuse to move into your AoEs. So we can actually convince them a little with this set, pulling them in, and it makes dungeon clear times a lot faster, which in turn is really good because perhaps you can fit in an extra dungeon if you're doing these with about 5 minutes shaved off them each time. So that's one of the benefits there. In addition, as you may have already heard, you get a really cool sound every time it happens, so wow, responsive gameplay. Can't get better than that. Not really a serious benefit, but I guess perhaps you might even not like the sound, so be careful with that. It does actually make a sound every time it procs, so hopefully you enjoy that because, well, at least you're going to have to learn to if you use the set, as it does happen quite a lot. Now, once again, we're seeing a boss fight here. Hard mode, final boss Blackheart. And actually, once again, we'll see quite quickly that the set can be really useful for ensuring that the adds die quite quickly. Traditionally this boss, at least in lower end groups, has been quite difficult because the adds really do build up and suddenly you're facing 15 adds all hitting you because often they stay at range and are difficult to kill. Now luckily the set, obviously as we've said, pulls them in, but in addition, and this is one of the benefits when compared to chains, which the case I've used, is that actually sometimes the adds will automatically aggro onto you, which means you don't have to expend any resources to chain them in. Obviously you might want to apply a secondary taunt afterwards, but it can be resources saved. In conjunction, if you don't really know the add fights that well, yes, chains can be really good if you know exactly where they spawn for instant reaction time, but if you don't, that's not such a big deal with this set, as sometimes you can even get saved with the lucky RNG pulls. Now an objection at this point with respect to chains is that really chains is better because you don't have that 2-second downtime each time Swarm Mother's procs. And while that is the case if you perfectly know the spawns, I think that in a general situation where you have to identify enemies you need to chain and then actually chain them, the process can probably take about 1 to 2 seconds at best, which in turn means that the cooldown on your Swarm Mothers actually isn't such a big deal after all, and it's not really noticeable in my experience. Now another perhaps commonsensical point to make is that compared to DKs with chains, they have to chain it and then taunt it, but if you use a ranged taunt, it's already taunted by the time it gets dragged in. So that is a benefit. Obviously it doesn't get the resistance shred, so it doesn't die quite as fast, but in most cases when you are chaining mobs in, they don't necessarily require you to resistance shred them as well. Now obviously we don't have talons to keep them in place once they do get chained in. There are a few things you can do, such as popping a veil, which will slow them down, but in my experience, mobs don't tend to run away too frequently, and if they do, well, they're most likely going to have another free chain very shortly once their CC immunity wears off. And as you probably noticed, naturally when I want to try and showcase the set's usefulness, Blackheart did decide to polymorph me twice in a row, which meant ultimately I didn't get to chain in as many ads as I would like, but at least you got to see the amount of ads actually built up when I was polymorphed to demonstrate my point. So the following clips are just going to be a few more ad pulls just to show you how, in this case, a particularly annoying pull can actually be managed more easily by pulling everything in. Now one of the things I haven't tested yet is how it works out in trial content, but I imagine similarly to how it has worked with chains, anything that can be chained will be chained by this one mother set, so it should actually work relatively similarly. And naturally, one of the main issues with Nightblade tanking in trials right now is that it doesn't quite have the same survivability as a DK tank. But I think that actually with this change, some of the fights which did require chains could actually successfully be completed now with non-DK tanks, which is quite a refreshing thing to have occur. Now obviously you are Forsaking, as we talked about before, Bloodspawn, so a bit of your tankiness is gone, though that's not something you really should be relying on as a tank, so I'm not too concerned with that respect. So that's about all I have for today. Now with regards to a build video, what sets are best, you know, what abilities are best, what you saw today is a relatively accurate representation of what I'm finally going to come up with when I present to you my proper full-length video with respect to the build. So feel free to go try it out. It is really solid, your resource regain is really nice, ulti regeneration is still solid, and of course you get to have that nice chaining in effect, which previously you haven't been able to enjoy as anything else other than a DK tank. So hopefully you guys enjoy it as much as I have, and with any luck I'll see you all in another video. Bye for now.